The Shadows of Change DLC is adding two magical constructs to Cathay, the Jade and Jade Lions. The Jade Lion represents the Yang Harmony, equipped with a breath spell that deals damage to swaths of infantry. The Jade Lion, its Yin counterpart, rocks the Missile Mirror spell that can reflect ranged attacks back onto its shooter. While both Cathay Lions behave like regular single-entity monsters, they do have rather different roles on the battlefield. In this unit-focused video, we'll be covering the two new kitty cats of the Grand Cathay army. Despite a few similarities on the Jade and Jade Lions like armor, leadership, speed, and their weapon strength, the few key differences on their stat lines and attributes makes them play rather different roles on the battlefield. The Jade Lion is the more offensive one with more melee attack stats, less melee defense, and a little bit more charge bonus, combined with the physical resistance on the unit plus a little bit more melee stats, all thanks to the harmony of Yang. This allows the Jade Lion to perform more offensive role, charging straight into enemy melee blobs, and perhaps applying that flammable effect to synergize with the Cathay artillery like the Grand Cannons, firing rockets, and Sky Junks, boosting the damage of those flaming missiles. As for the Jade Lion, it is the more defensive one with more melee defense overall. Its emphasis is more on disrupting enemy spellcasting, literally with a disrupted effect, reducing enemy physical resistance and boosting the miscast chance. And don't forget about the 20% spell resistance provided by the Guardian Shield, making it great against factions that rely more on magic to do damage. Now let's talk about each of the lions in more details, especially their tactical potential. We'll be starting with the Jade Lion, which is a very standard large monster that can act as a disruption piece due to its speed and mass and has pretty good offensive stats. It is also the first monster that Yuan Bo starts with in his campaign, so I did have a lot of chances to try it out. The real value of the Jade Lion, I would say, it's its ability to imbue fire weakness to its targets, providing a nice damage boost to the Grand Cathay army, because Grand Cathay has a lot of access to fire damage, not only because of the flaming artillery, but also because of the spells. The Lord of Yang spells has quite a few spells with fire damage, including the Wall of Wind and Fire. It is a lesser used wind spell, but does have fire and magic damage. The more popular AoE damage spell would be the Dragon's Breath, fairly cost effective for its Winds of Magic consumption. On top of that, the Might of Heaven and Earth, providing magical attacks and flaming attacks to a wide area of allied troops. This makes the Jade Lion a great bait for area of effect spells. Just throw him into melee troops, forces your opponent to blob up, and then drop those area of effect damage on top of your opponent's infantry. On top of that, the Jade Lion can help you spam more spells quicker because he has the power recharge ability Jade Conduit, providing an additional 20% of Winds of Magic regeneration as long as it is on the field. Basically, with its offensive stats and decent-ish tankiness, not the greatest armor, but definitely has the physical resistance to make up for it, the Jade Lion is something that you will try to throw into melee combat so that it can apply the flammable weakness to all its targets. And don't forget that it also has its own breath attack, the Jade Lion's Breath, which is also a flaming damage breath attack spell. So the Jade Lion, on top of being a decent armor-piercing melee combatant, it also provides some decent fire synergy, allowing the Grand Cathay to clear out enemy with spells, making the Lore of Yang magic more viable. Now for the Jade Lions, it doesn't have any boost to damage output and is a more supportive unit, but I do think that it brings more value to the Cathay roster. That's because the Jade Lion is a holder of the Yin Harmony. While it doesn't provide much combat benefits to the Jade Lion, it does harmonizes with the Yang Harmony of the Jade Lances or other fast-moving melee units of Grand Cathay. One problem of Cathay Cavalry is that you're paying for the Harmony ability, but once the mobility, for example Peasant Horsemen and Jade Lances, move away from friendly missile troops, they will lose the Harmony buff and fight less effectively in melee combat. But now Jade Lions provides the Yin Harmony to match with the Yang Harmony of the cavalry, making these strike forces no longer lonely on their way to enemy backlines. The Jade Lion basically functions as a mobile Harmony hotspot, giving surrounding melee troops additional melee stats by matching their Yang Harmony. This opens up Cathay to more aggressive tactics, especially now that they have Crowman on their aerial roster to act as another fast-moving disruptor, finally making a Cathay melee rush build possible. The Missile Mirror Bound spell on the Jade Lion is also great for melee rushing. It reflects the missiles of a targeted enemy unit back to itself. While this doesn't necessarily do much damage because a lot of competent players simply stop shooting with their missile units, this does silence their firepower. providing a valuable safety window for the slower Cathay infantry to march towards enemy formations, while the faster units can get close and disrupt enemy missiles, giving the Cathay melee rush even more advantage over a missile-heavy army. On top of that, the Jade Lion has the Guardian Shield. This provides a 20% spell resistance, which doesn't seem much, but when stacked up on all the dragons of Cathay, who already have 25% spell resistance, this can boost the spell damage reduction to a whopping 45%. Thanks to the Jade Lion's shield, the upgraded final transmutation is doing minimal damage to Yuanbo right now. Now of course, the Jade and Jade Lions do have their weaknesses. As a single entity, they are not the tankiest, not having the most HP, having around 5000 max. Their unit model isn't bugged and they don't have the most armor, so they can and will take damage in a melee grind, especially when the grind involves anti-large units or armor-piercing units. Plus, unlike the Terracotta Sentinels, the Jade and Jade Lions are not unbreakable. They do have immune to psychology, making them harder to rout, but still, they are indeed routable. That's why I don't expect these two lions to hold too long in melee combat. Overall, I would say that the Jade and Jade Lions are two similar single-entity monsters, but with very different roles on the battlefield. The Jade Lion focuses more on the damage output aspect, and it has great synergy with various sources of Cathay fire damage. The Jade Lion acts as a great supporting unit, providing a new source of yin harmony to the faster moving melee cavalry, opening up new tactical options for Cathay on the offense. At the same time, it provides some pretty good buffs for allies and disrupts enemies with its various tools. Personally, I think the Jade Lion would be a much more valuable addition to the Grand Cathay army, but the Jade Lion is also pretty fine for what it does. What are your thoughts on these two units? Feel free to leave a comment down below and let me know. That's all for today. I hope you find this video useful, and thank you for watching. Tactical Lich signing out.